Good greetings, small groups. I hope you find this material helpful for this week. This week is the week of July 19th. The scripture for this week is Romans chapter 8, verses 12 through 25. I use the Common English Bible, but you can use whatever Bible you find helpful. So I started off this week by looking at the context. And so remember, there were essentially Jewish Christians in Rome who were fighting with the Jewish people who did not believe that Christ was the Messiah. And so the Jewish Christians were actually expelled. However, the idea stayed. And so when the Jewish Christians were able to return, they found a very different religion than what they had left. And so I wonder, have you ever been in that position? Have you ever left to return to an area to find that things have changed? I think of our many military families when one person is deployed for several months and then they return, the family dynamic has changed a bit, hasn't it? The kids have gotten taller, things have changed. And so how is that kind of re-entry? Probably you understand what these Jewish Christians felt as they returned to Rome. But as we saw that they had a lot of conflict, that's really why Paul wrote this letter, is there was a lot of conflict. In fact, he was worried that there was so much conflict that they were not able to see the big picture. They couldn't come together. They were fighting over these little tiny issues and not able to see the big picture and not able to see the huge impact that they could have on Rome. That was Paul's point, is he wanted them to put aside their differences and come together because God's kingdom is at hand, and he wanted the whole Roman Empire to know about God's kingdom, to be transformed by God as he had been transformed. Remember, Paul was a person who'd been persecuting Christians and these Jewish Christians. And then he had that powerful conversion moment. And then he was so zealous for Christ. So he wants these Christians who have differences to come together. Now, how have we as a church sometimes fought over things that we shouldn't have been fighting over? How do we still do this? I know I've confessed to you all, Facebook is a hard place for me because there's so much shame and so much the conflict and judgment that we place upon people, and often people we don't even know. And you'll see comments in a thread and you'll know a friend but not know if all these other people know this person or know the other people, other friends that they're fighting with. And it just, I don't know, it kind of breaks my heart. So are there ways that sometimes we get stuck in the weeds, as Paul essentially is saying? How do we get stuck in the weeds so that we can see the big picture? One thing I've been so impressed by is I feel like in this time of COVID, we really had to boil down what's most important. That's what we've been focusing all of our attention on. Our worship, we still have small groups, and we've launched two new small groups, and we hope to launch more. Our missions are on fire. And then our care teams, because caring for one another is so important too. And so all of these are so important. Let me turn off my phone. Sorry, friends. All of these are so important. So I've been so impressed by how we've been using our missions, how we've been using and focusing our mission. We have come together, not just ourselves, but other churches, some United Methodists and some other churches or people who attend other churches have found out what we're doing and want to come support us. And it's been amazing because, friends, we could not do it alone. We feed almost 1,000 people, sometimes over 1,000 people every single week, and we could not do it on our own. And so we don't get caught up in our differences. Instead, we all come together for the glory of God. It's not just us who is doing it. We try not to put our name all over it, though it is awesome what we're doing and what we're able to do out of our building. But we know that it's all for God's kingdom, all to glorify God, and how amazing that is. And Paul writes about kind of the community is kind of in this labor pain part, right? So you think of a mother in labor, right? She's going through hours, sometimes days of agonizing labor, but she knows it's going to be worth it for the child that's going to emerge and that she's going to get to finally hold in her arms. That's kind of what Paul is feeling like this community is in. They know God's kingdom is at the end of this laborious journey, but they can't see it yet. So instead they have to hope. That's what he's trying to say. We have to hope for what we cannot see. We cannot see God's kingdom, this time that's promised when there's no more suffering, no more pain, no more death. So where do you find hope right now? Where are you finding hope? What are you hoping in that you cannot see right now? What are you hoping in? And then where you do see conflict, right? I would confess Facebook is a place where I see a lot of conflict. How can you bring that hope? Or how do you set yourself aside so it doesn't bring you down? How can you find hope? And then Paul writes that we are adopted children of God, and how powerful that is. We are heirs to God's kingdom. So what does it mean to you to be an adopted child of God? All right, friends, I hope you all have an amazing week. I cannot wait until it's safe for all of us to be together again. That's what I'm hoping in right now. I know it's on the horizon. I just don't know when it is. And so we continue to hope in the things we cannot see. All right, friends, have an awesome week.